Ghiba is one of those where the definition is subject to some discussion amongst the scholars of akhlaq and spirituality. They give a broad definition, but the detailed understanding of what it is, how one can really define what is ghiba or not, is slightly different in that because there are so many other sins connected with ghiba, you see different scholars may look at it from a different perspective. But as a principle, it is mentioned as this: Al-ghibatu dhikru al-akharina bima yasu'hum fi dhahr al-ghayb. Ghiba generally is to mention others in a way that they dislike when they're not present. That's the general definition. So when you talk about somebody in a manner in which if they heard that you talked in that such a way, they will be unhappy. That's defined as backbiting, as a general principle. However, the scholars come forward and say, yes, we can understand it as such, but there are certain criteria that must be fulfilled for ghiba in itself to be the case, to actually be determined or for it to take place. These conditions are the following. They say, number one, it should be that the individual is revealing that which is hidden from people, or that which is generally not known, or that which is not exposed to the world or to everyone else. So for example, you saw someone do something, and then you speak to someone and you say, I can't believe it. I saw him do that. But these people, this individual you're speaking to, did not see that individual committing this act. And perhaps committing this act amongst a group of individuals or within a very restricted area. Certainly not something public. Yes? However, if it was something public, so if somebody comes and does something in front of a lot of people, or it is known somehow, does this make it ghiba? It doesn't, but it doesn't make it okay. Do you see? When we're talking about these criteria, it's very important to understand. We're not saying if you don't fulfill the criteria, it is okay. We're saying if you don't fulfill the criteria, it's not ghiba, but it's something else, which is also forbidden. So that's a key thing to understand. Number two, it must be something which is true in that person, not a falsification, not a lie, not something that's made up about that individual. So if you've seen them do something actually real, in other words, you're not making it up, and that is ghiba. If it's something that they haven't done and you talk about it and you say they've done it, that's another thing called buhtan, slander. It's perhaps even worse. Yeah. Number three, this is an interesting one because some of the scholars say the intention should be for degrading, for mocking, for laughing, or to depict the individual negatively, or to show them in lower status. So when you mention something, or when you talk about something, or refer to something, or write or type something about somebody, which is number one, not known by people. Number two, actually true. And number three, the purpose behind it is to somehow get people to laugh, somehow to make yourself feel better by presenting yourself to be a better individual, somehow degrading them, lowering their status. Number four, it must be a statement or an act which identifies the person. So the name, something which alludes to where they are, who they are. If you talk about a community or somebody in the community or a number of people where the tahdeed, the specification, the identification of that individual is not possible, yeah, is not ghiba. again, it may fall into another sin, but it wouldn't necessarily fall under the category of ghibah. But sometimes with these, it's a very dangerous element that perhaps both the person, the speaker, and the listener, when they're conversing or communicating, they say, I don't want to mention, their name, but that person who did this and this and that. The moment that person who is listening knows who that individual is, it's their responsibility to say, stop. You know what? I know who that person is. Don't mention. Don't keep going. Yeah? And sometimes, subhanAllah, shaitan comes within the framework of people's understanding of Sharia. So, people talk about somebody and say, I don't want to tell you who he is, but I'm sure you all know. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. I'll just say the name, then what else is left? You're trying to avoid ghibah, but somehow you want people to, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, you know the person I'm referring to, for example, in that aspect. Number 5, it's the idea that they must be a Muslim and possibly a mu'min. However, does that make backbiting non-Muslims okay? No. In essence, is the definition then backbiting? No. But is it right? No. Because what does it do? It creates within the human being the hypocrisy. Yes, I can for this person, not for that person. Yeah. Number 2, gives a bad image. It develops into the human being the ability or the audacity to commit or to say wrong, vile words sometimes, or even inappropriate comments, so to speak. Finally, a very crucial condition for it to be fulfilled, to be known as a ghibah, is that the mughtab, the one who we're actually talking about, must not be mutajahiran bil fisq, meaning that they openly and publicly sin, and known as a fasiq, an open public sinner, somebody who does sins just in view of everyone and is not necessarily a muttaqi, or somebody who tries, and so on and so forth. And that is something which excludes them from the definition or the idea of ghibah. Now, how ghibah is practiced or performed, not only by words, of course, through movements of the hands, through writing, through ishara. Ishara means to point. Yeah, through keyboard. It's not found in books 300 years ago, 200 years ago, but it is certainly an application of it today.